Good morning, everyone, family. It's a word that evokes warmth, loyalty, and connection. But what happens when the very people who are supposed to protect and stand by you, your siblings, are the ones who turn against you in ways that leave lasting scars? Forgiveness is noble, but there are betrayals that go beyond apology. Some acts shake the foundation of trust so deeply that they demand not forgetfulness, but awareness, and sometimes distance. Today we speak about 7 unforgivable betrayals from siblings, not to encourage bitterness, but to remind ourselves that protecting our peace is not a crime. One of the most painful betrayals a sibling can commit is the subtle or sometimes overt act of undermining you in public settings. These moments often get brushed off as jokes or harmless teasing, but when they happen consistently, they are far from innocent. They're intentional digs designed to belittle you, erode your confidence, and shift how others perceive you. It could start with casual mockery, a sibling making fun of your job, your appearance, your intelligence, or your ambitions in front of your friends or family. It may look like sarcasm at first. Oh, you're trying that again? But it quickly becomes clear that the goal isn't humor, it's humiliation. They may tell stories that embarrass you, highlight your past failures in social settings, or interrupt you to correct or belittle your opinions in conversations, creating a dynamic where you're the lesser one in every room you enter together. The damage this causes isn't just emotional, it's reputational. Over time, people begin to view you through the lens your sibling constructs. Your image becomes defined not by your words or actions, but by the ridicule and shade they cast. And when it comes from someone so close, a person others assume knows you best, it carries more weight than if a stranger said it. Even worse, these actions can be dismissed by others because they're coming from family. You might hear things like, "They're just teasing you," or "That's just how siblings are." But toxic behavior disguised as tradition is still toxic. A consistent pattern of public disrespect from a sibling sends a clear message. They don't value your dignity. And here's the deeper betrayal. Siblings are supposed to be your allies, especially in social environments where judgment is constant. If they choose to tear you down rather than build you up in front of others, they're not just ignoring that bond, they're weaponizing it. They know your insecurities, they know your history, and when they choose to use that knowledge to embarrass you instead of protect you, it is a clear and calculated act of betrayal. True sibling support means having someone in your corner when you're vulnerable, someone who amplifies your voice instead of silencing it. When that support turns into subtle sabotage masked as humor or honesty, it erodes not just your confidence, but the very foundation of your relationship. There are few things more sacred in any relationship, especially between siblings, than trust. Within the walls of a family, trust is often assumed, inherited even. And when you open your heart to a sibling, you're not just sharing information, you're sharing your inner world. The things you don't tell friends, partners, or even your parents often find their way into sibling conversations. It might be your biggest fears, your past mistakes, your traumas, your insecurities, or your dreams. These are the kinds of truths that require vulnerability, and handing them over is an act of deep trust. So when a sibling chooses to break that trust, not by accident but deliberately, the betrayal cuts sharply and deeply. Whether it's telling a parent something you begged them to keep quiet, exposing a personal struggle to friends or outsiders, or even weaponizing your pain in a moment of conflict, these are not casual slips. These are violations of the highest order. And the worst part, it often doesn't stop at the first time. Once a sibling reveals that they're willing to share what you ask them not to, they become a ticking time bomb. You begin to fear intimacy, to withhold parts of yourself, not just from them, but from everyone. Their betrayal makes you question not just them, but your own judgment. How could I have trusted them with that? Becomes a question that loops in your mind. The shame isn't just about what was exposed, it's about who exposed it. Many of these betrayals happen behind your back, with you finding out from someone else that your business has become public. That creates a double wound. First, the exposure itself, and second, the knowledge that your sibling didn't even have the respect to admit it. They often downplay it. It wasn't a big deal, or I didn't think you'd care. But you do care because you trusted them with something fragile and they dropped it for attention, power, or even just gossip. Some siblings reveal secrets out of jealousy, hoping that by airing your vulnerabilities, they can bring you down a notch. Others do it to gain closeness with someone else at your expense, using your story as currency. Regardless of the motive, the outcome is the same. They show you that your pain or privacy isn't safe with them. This type of betrayal leaves lasting damage. It teaches you not to open up, not to rely on people, and worst of all, that the ones who are supposed to protect you might actually be the ones to hurt you most. In healthy relationships, secrets are kept not just out of loyalty, but out of love. When a sibling willingly exposes your deepest truths, they're making it clear that your emotional safety means less to them than their own moment of attention, leverage, or amusement. And once that line is crossed, it's nearly impossible to rebuild trust, because the next time you consider confiding in them, the question will always linger, will they do it again? There is a unique kind of betrayal that doesn't just come from direct insults or private violations. It comes from manipulation. It's the betrayal of having a sibling who quietly, or sometimes openly, turns the people you love most, your family, against you. At first, it may not even be obvious. You begin to notice small changes in the way your parents or relatives respond to you. Colder tones, unexplained criticism, subtle exclusions. You start second guessing yourself. Did I do something wrong? Why is everyone suddenly treating me differently? And then slowly the truth comes out. Your sibling has been planting seeds, twisting stories, sharing half-truths, highlighting your flaws and framing your actions in a way that makes you look ungrateful, selfish, or unstable. This betrayal is not impulsive, it's strategic. A sibling who engages in this kind of manipulation understands one key truth: perception is power. And by controlling the narrative others hear about you, they can shape how you're treated, how you're supported, and how you're seen within your own family. It may start with casual complaints, they're always so dramatic, or they never help around the house. But it escalates. Soon they're recounting moments of conflict without context, spinning events to make themselves the victim and you the aggressor. If you've ever stood up to them, set a boundary, or refused to comply with their demands, they frame it as cruelty. If you distance yourself to protect your mental health, they call it abandonment. And the people who hear their version of events, often well-meaning relatives, may not question it because they don't see the full picture. Over time, you find yourself isolated in your own family unit. Decisions are made without you. Support is withheld. Your concerns are minimized. Your reputation, not just as a sibling, but as a son, daughter, cousin, or grandchild, is slowly dismantled. And all the while, your sibling maintains their image as the reasonable one, the good child, the one who just wants peace. This kind of betrayal is particularly cruel because it hijacks your most intimate circle of belonging. Family is supposed to be a place of safety, a foundation that withstands outside judgment. When a sibling poisons that foundation from within, it creates a feeling of displacement. You're no longer just hurt by what they've said. You're hurt by the silence of others, by the fact that no one asked for your side, by the ease with which your character was doubted. The psychological damage can be long-lasting. You may begin to withdraw not just from your sibling, but from the entire family. Holidays become tense, conversations become forced, and moments that should feel warm become suffocating. Worse still, when you try to explain what's happening, you risk sounding defensive or paranoid, exactly the narrative they've crafted for you. This manipulation isn't just about sibling rivalry, it's about control. Your sibling isn't satisfied with conflict, they want dominance. And by turning others against you, they ensure they hold emotional leverage. They may even do it under the guise of concern. I'm just worried about them making their betrayal seem noble or selfless. In truth, there is nothing noble about dismantling someone's support system. There is nothing loving about making a sibling feel alienated in their own home. When someone tries to make you the villain in your own family, they aren't just breaking trust. They are rewriting your identity in the eyes of those who matter most. Sibling relationships are often a mix of camaraderie and competition. A little rivalry can be healthy. It pushes both people to grow, evolve, and improve. But when that rivalry turns toxic, when admiration becomes envy, and when ambition turns into sabotage, sabotaging your success is one of the most calculated and malicious betrayals a sibling can commit. It's not just about not supporting you, it's about actively working to prevent you from thriving. And when this sabotage comes from someone who knows you intimately, your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your goals, it's especially devastating. At first, the sabotage may be subtle. They might offer passive-aggressive advice that's designed to steer you in the wrong direction. They might question your abilities under the guise of concern. Are you sure you can handle that job? Or you might be aiming a little too high. These comments aren't meant to help you think critically. They're meant to seed doubt in your mind. Then it escalates. They may interfere directly, perhaps spreading rumors to people who could influence your reputation, like friends, colleagues, or romantic partners. They may take credit for your ideas in family discussions or in shared work environments. Some even go as far as intentionally withholding information that could help you, like job opportunities, important deadlines, or crucial connections, just to ensure you fall behind. In families where comparison is common, why can't you be more like your brother? Some siblings will weaponize success. If they feel like your achievements make them look inadequate, they'll attack what they can't match. Not through honest competition, but through backdoor sabotage. And because they know your buttons, they'll often target not just your goals, but your confidence. They might laugh at your creative pursuits, minimize your achievements, or act disinterested in your milestones. Graduated, they say, it's not a big deal, everyone gets a degree now. Got a promotion? It's probably just because you were lucky. Started a business? That won't last long. These aren't offhand comments, they're intentional deflations designed to make you question your worth and your progress. In some cases, the sabotage gets even more serious. They may involve themselves in your relationships, poison other people's perceptions of you, or create conflict at key moments in your career or education. Imagine preparing for a major exam or interview only to be pulled into unnecessary drama or emotional chaos created by your sibling. That's not just bad timing, that's strategic sabotage. What makes this betrayal so painful is that success is supposed to be celebrated within families. The joy of reaching new heights should be multiplied by the support of those who love you. But when a sibling views your growth as a threat, they can become your most dangerous obstacle, not because they're stronger, but because they're close. They have access to your world in ways that no outsider does. They know how to disrupt you quietly, invisibly, in ways that others might never notice. And when you finally confront them, you're often met with denial or defensiveness. You're just paranoid, I was trying to help, or you always make me the bad guy. This gaslighting compounds the betrayal, making you feel crazy for even noticing the patterns of destruction they leave in their wake. The most tragic part? Many victims of this kind of betrayal will downplay it for years because they've been conditioned to believe that family, especially siblings, are allowed to compete, criticize, and cross boundaries in the name of love. But sabotage isn't love, it's warfare. And when it comes from your own blood, it feels like you're fighting an enemy who already knows your battle plans. One of the most insidious forms of betrayal from a sibling is exploitation, the quiet, persistent use of your kindness, resources, or emotional energy for their own benefit, with little to no regard for your well-being. Unlike explosive conflicts or obvious confrontations, this kind of betrayal often unfolds over time. It is hidden behind a mask of dependence, entitlement, or manipulation, making it harder to detect until the damage is already done. Financial exploitation is one of the most common forms, especially in families where one sibling is more stable, responsible, or successful than the other. You may start off helping them in small ways, covering a bill here, lending them money during a tough month, or helping with essentials. These gestures come from a place of love, compassion, and family loyalty, but with some siblings, this help quietly turns into expectation. The thank yous stop coming. The repayment never arrives. What was once assistance becomes obligation, and your generosity is taken for granted. Some siblings learn to manipulate this dynamic expertly. They know how to tug at your heartstrings, bringing up their misfortunes, failures, or bad luck whenever you hesitate to offer more. They might guilt trip you. You're family, you're supposed to help me. Or play the victim so convincingly that you feel like saying no makes you cruel. And the more you give, the more they take. Not because they need it, but because they've learned they can. Over time, this financial burden can become suffocating. You might find yourself stressed, stretched thin, or even falling behind on your own goals because of what you've sacrificed for them. Yet they continue to expect more money, more support, more tolerance without ever stepping up or giving back. What makes it more painful is that they often feel entitled to your help, as if your success somehow obligates you to carry their weight indefinitely. But exploitation doesn't stop with money. In many ways, emotional exploitation is even more corrosive. Some siblings lean on you for everything: emotional crises, constant drama, endless validation, without ever offering the same in return. They dump their problems on you, drain your energy, and expect you to be their therapist, their cheerleader, and their emotional punching bag all in one. You may find yourself constantly on call, listening to their rants, solving their problems, mediating their conflicts, even when you're dealing with your own life. They rarely ask how you're doing, and when they do, it's often surface level or self-serving. They take your time, your empathy, and your strength. But when you're in need, they vanish, change the subject, or minimize your feelings. Your pain becomes inconvenient, your needs are too much, and your boundaries often ignored. This kind of one-sided dynamic creates an emotional imbalance where you're always giving and they're always receiving. You become emotionally exhausted, but too loyal to walk away, especially when you're told things like, "You're the only one I can talk to," or "You're the strong one, I need you." These statements sound flattering, but they're traps. They keep you tethered to a dynamic where your worth is based entirely on what you can do for them. What makes sibling exploitation particularly painful is that it's often dismissed by others, even by yourself. After all, they're family. You're supposed to help them, right? But there's a difference between helping someone and being used by them. True family support is reciprocal. It includes gratitude, respect, and the understanding that love doesn't mean entitlement. Exploitation is betrayal dressed in dependence. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come with cruelty or insults. Sometimes it comes with a smile, a sob story, or a casual favor that turns into a pattern. But over time, the result is the same. Your resources are depleted, your emotional energy is drained, and your sibling continues to take, not because they can't survive without you, but because they've learned they don't have to try. Crises reveal character. When your world falls apart, whether through heartbreak, illness, financial ruin, a mental health breakdown, or the death of a loved one, you naturally turn to the people you trust most. And among them, a sibling should stand near the top. After all, they've shared your life, your history, your blood. In moments of despair, the assumption is that they will stand beside you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Because that's what family does. But one of the most heartbreaking betrayals a sibling can commit is abandoning you, or worse, turning against you during the moments when you needed them the most. This betrayal can take many forms. Sometimes it's physical absence. They simply vanish when the burden becomes too heavy, leaving you to navigate your darkest moments alone. They might make excuses for why they can't be there. They're too busy, overwhelmed, or they just can't handle the drama. And while they may frame their distance as self-preservation, the truth is that in those moments, their silence screams louder than any argument ever could. They choose their comfort over your suffering. In other cases, the betrayal is far more active. When you're vulnerable, some siblings see an opportunity to criticize you, shame you, or assert control. Imagine being in the middle of a crisis, already fragile and disoriented, and your sibling uses it to highlight your failures, spread damaging narratives about your situation, or point out how you brought this on yourself. There's nothing more demoralizing than being kicked while you're down by someone who should have been a source of strength. This betrayal often occurs during family-wide tragedies as well. When a parent dies, for example, some siblings weaponize grief to divide, blame, or seize control of assets, of family decisions, of attention. Rather than coming together in collective mourning, they exploit the chaos to serve themselves, leaving others emotionally shattered and unsupported. And if you're the sibling who's struggling the most, they may resent the attention you receive, painting you as dramatic, needy, or weak, instead of simply human. In moments of illness, this betrayal becomes even more vivid. Whether you're dealing with physical sickness or mental health challenges, a sibling who distances themselves or worse, mocks or denies your suffering deepens your pain. They may refuse to acknowledge your diagnosis, invalidate your experience, or gossip about your condition with others. They might tell people you're exaggerating or just looking for sympathy, all while you're barely holding yourself together. That isn't just indifference, it's cruelty wrapped in dismissal. And what adds salt to the wound is that others often don't see this betrayal clearly. To outsiders, your sibling may still appear supportive. They might send a few texts, show up briefly, or offer empty words of encouragement, gestures that allow them to look present without being present. But you feel the truth. Their heart isn't in it. When you needed them to show up fully, to sit with you, fight for you, stand in your corner, they gave you distance, coldness, or even judgment. What makes this form of betrayal so devastating is that crises are when your emotional walls are at their lowest. You're not just hurt, you're exposed. You're reaching out, sometimes desperately, hoping that the people closest to you will reach back. And when your sibling, someone you perhaps stood up for, sacrificed for, or always supported, turns their back, the abandonment cuts deeper than the crisis itself. Because in that moment, it's not just your life that feels broken, it's your faith in who you thought would never leave. Among the most deeply personal aspects of anyone's life are their romantic relationships, the connections that involve vulnerability, emotional intimacy, loyalty, and trust. When you bring someone into your life in that way, especially someone you care about romantically, you're inviting them into a sacred, protected space. That space is built on mutual respect and boundaries, not just between you and your partner, but also between your partner and the rest of your inner circle, including your family. So when a sibling crosses that romantic boundary, whether emotionally, physically, or even through subtle interference, it is one of the most profound violations of trust imaginable. Unlike financial disputes or petty rivalries, this betrayal strikes at the very heart of your emotional security. And because it's often cloaked in ambiguity or denial, it leaves behind not just heartbreak, but confusion, humiliation, and long-term emotional scars. Sometimes the betrayal is overt. Your sibling may flirt openly with your partner, testing limits, using charm, and taking advantage of the familiarity that comes with being part of your inner circle. They may try to blur the line between friendliness and attraction, hiding behind casual jokes or harmless teasing that makes you and possibly even your partner uncomfortable. In some cases, it escalates to full-on infidelity, a romantic or sexual relationship conducted behind your back. Few things can shatter a person more completely than discovering that the person they love and the sibling they trusted have conspired to betray them. But often the violation is more subtle. Your sibling might constantly question your relationship choices, criticize your partner, or undermine your relationship with well-placed concerns and backhanded comments. These manipulations are designed to create doubt, not just in your partner's mind, but in yours as well. They may start trying to insert themselves more and more into your romantic life, showing up uninvited, dominating conversations, or even using moments of emotional vulnerability to get closer to your partner than is appropriate. And what makes this betrayal so infuriating is that it often happens under the guise of closeness. We just get along really well, they might say. You're overreacting. I'm just being friendly. But beneath that false innocence lies a clear disregard for boundaries, a refusal to recognize and respect the space that is meant to exist between a sibling and your romantic world. Even if nothing physical happens, the emotional consequences can be devastating. You're left questioning everyone's intentions. Was your sibling always competing with you? Was your partner ever really loyal? Were the smiles you saw exchanged just friendly, or was there something more? This paranoia eats away at the foundation of not only your relationship, but your sense of judgment. It can destroy your ability to trust, not just your sibling, but future partners as well. And in some cases, the betrayal is even more manipulative when a sibling, after you've broken up with someone, pursues that ex, whether it's under the excuse that you're over them or that they had a connection too. The truth remains, it's a form of emotional trespassing. It sends a clear message that your boundaries, your history, and your healing process mean less to them than their own desires. It's not about love, it's about power and disregard. Even if their intentions are real, the timing, the context, and the history make it unacceptable. This kind of betrayal also has social consequences. Your friends, your extended family, everyone you care about may get drawn into the tension. You feel embarrassed, exposed, maybe even blamed, as others question your reactions or accuse you of being too sensitive. But the pain is real. Because your sibling has crossed into territory they never should have touched, and in doing so, they've made it clear that they see your happiness not as something to protect, but something to challenge or even sabotage. Romantic boundaries are about respect. When a sibling ignores those boundaries, they are not just intruding into your love life, they're betraying your dignity, your privacy, and your emotional safety. They're choosing selfishness over solidarity, desire over decency, and in doing so, they fracture a bond that in many cases never truly recovers. Betrayal from a sibling cuts deeper than any other form of betrayal because of the very nature of the bond that should exist between you. A sibling is meant to be your closest ally, someone who shares your past, understands your struggles, and walks with you through life's ups and downs. When that bond is shattered, it not only hurts, but it forces you to question everything you once knew about loyalty, love, and family. These 7 betrayals, breaking your trust, revealing your secrets, turning the family against you, sabotaging your success, exploiting you financially or emotionally, betraying you during a crisis, and crossing romantic boundaries, are not just isolated acts of selfishness. They are clear indications that something more fundamental has been broken. And while it may be painful, it's important to recognize that healing doesn't come from just forgiving these betrayals. Healing comes from reclaiming your sense of self-worth, your boundaries, and your ability to trust again. But only with those who truly deserve it. In the end, it's not about erasing the past or pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about understanding that you have the right to protect yourself from toxic behavior, even when it comes from those who share your blood. True family doesn't betray you. It supports, loves, and lifts you up. And if that support isn't there, then it's time to walk away, not in anger, but in peace, knowing that you deserve relationships that are built on trust, respect, and unconditional love. Never forget, you are worthy of loyalty. You are worthy of love that doesn't come with strings attached. And while your siblings' actions may have hurt you, they will never define your worth or the value of the true connections you deserve.